Hello TL Travelers, and welcome back to the TL Travel YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome to the family. Right now I'm in the process of taking you guys through 6 months into South America. We hit up Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, and right now we are chatting a little bit about my experiences in Easter Island. If you missed my last video, I actually talked about how we got out to Easter Island and what types of sites I recommend seeing and doing while you're there. A little bit on how to save money, some budget stuff, all that fun stuff. So if that is something that you're interested in, I will link it down below and also above. But today I am elaborating a little bit on my Easter Island experience with the story of my underwater anxiety attack. So if you are someone who gets crazy anxiety just like listening to stories like this, I know that in the past I have had similar experiences. Definitely like trigger warning up front. This might not be the video for you, but if you are interested in hearing all about what went down, yeah, definitely stick around. So Derek and I actually both got our dive licenses when we were traveling in Indonesia in the Gili Islands. Derek has his advanced and I just have my open water plus my deep dive. So when we got to Easter Island, we had seen on so many lists that you could go underwater scuba diving and dive with these Moai heads that you see, that Easter Island is known for. So that was 100% on the bucket list. And I will say it had been a little bit since I had last been diving, but not so long that I was due to have like a refresher dive. So I was a little bit on edge about like making sure that I remembered everything that I needed to know to do a dive. And the dive that we wanted to do with the Moai head is a deep dive, so you do have to have your advanced or your deep dive in order to do it. So that was kind of like a little bit of added pressure for me. Derek and I sort of had a long conversation prior to looking into doing the actual diving about, what I needed to remember and if I really did feel comfortable. And after that conversation, we decided that yes, I did have all of the knowledge that I still needed. And once we got there, if I was still feeling a little bit nervous about it, that like we could always bail. So we went over to the area where there were a couple of dive shops and there were more than one option. And I think that this is initially where we messed up and learned a real life lesson. There were 2 shops that we were looking at and both of them had like fairly similar reviews. One of them was a PADI certified dive shop and the other one was not. Now, the PADI was more expensive and we were on a bit of a tight budget, especially after having to spend like $300 US on ridiculous visa things. If you missed that story, I'll link it, but we were running out of disposable income. So we thought, you know what, if the dive shop exists in this like touristy location and it has similar reviews, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to like do the non-PADI one. Like it should be fine. So we signed up for a dive with this dive shop, and the woman that we were originally speaking to, I was under the impression that she was going to be our dive master, and she was like super helpful and just talking about all of the things that we needed to consider and making sure that all of our paperwork was up to date and like walking me through how the dive was gonna go. And that made me feel super, super comfortable. She let me know that because we were certified, we would have to go over and set up our own tanks, and then our dive master would bring everything else that we needed on the boat. So quickly we realized that she was not going to be our dive master. That's fine. Derek and I went over, we set up our own equipment. I did fine. I'm kind of one of those people who like, I doubt myself a lot, but like generally I'm good. So I set my tank up and everything was fine. I had Derek check it. He said everything was fine. And then our dive master came, he checked it, and he said that everything was fine as well. So important piece of information, just to like give you guys some context. There had been an earthquake in Chile about, well, I guess it was the night before. So the waves in the ocean, like it was not a calm day. Let's just put it that way, out on the ocean. It was not calm. there was a lot of waves, and we were basically told, like, don't worry about it. Once you get under the water, you're not gonna feel it. You're gonna be fine. So we're going out, talking about all the different places we've been diving, this and that, all that stuff. And then out of nowhere, Joe says, "Where's your weight belt?" And I was like, "What do you mean, where's my weight belt? We were told to put our dive gear together and that you would be bringing everything else." And he immediately got so angry and defensive, and like, okay, maybe he was having a grumpy day. Maybe this is something that, you know, has happened to him before. So he's like a little bit irritated. I don't know, but he for sure like took it out on us and was like, "No, you were supposed to bring your weight belt. We don't have time to go back. We can't go back. What are we supposed to do now? Da 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 da." He's like, "I have extra weights, just a second." So he pulled out like some weight belts from underneath the like boat seat, which kind of leads me to believe that like he was supposed to have everything there, you know? Otherwise, why would he have like most of it there? But that's neither here nor there. So now we have the waves and the fact that he's clearly like not in a good mood. So we get to the dive spot and I put my mask on, and something to tell you, or like something to note about my head shape, is that like I could never be bald, because I have this weird like cone situation where even if a mask fits me, if there's enough pressure, it just kind of like slides off the top of my head. So I always have that same issue where like when I go backwards into the water, when I'm scuba diving, I almost always lose my mask. It just happens to be that way. So we were diving in off the edge of the boat. He went first, and then Derek went, and then I went. And when I got in the water, my mask, of course, came off. So he was like, our dive master was swimming away to the lead for us to like go down and start our dive. And he's yelling at me, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "You know, nothing's wrong. My mask just came off. I'm just putting it on." Again, in like a flurry of anger, he swims over all like huffing and puffing, and he's like, "Here, it's because your mask is too big. It's the wrong size. It's the wrong size." And he pulls it away from me, takes his own mask off his head, changes the like the size of it, puts it on my face, and takes my mask and goes away. And I'm putting his mask on, and I'm like, this mask doesn't fit me properly. So it was way too big. So I tightened it as far as it would go. And then I was like, okay, this is all right. Like, I can survive, basically. I'll be fine. I wasn't, but... So we get to the lead and we descend and we begin our dive, and everything's going fine. Derek and I are diving side by side, holding hands, and then our dive master is ahead of us, and he's just sort of like pointing things out. Now, the one thing about the dive in Easter Island is like, other than the Moai head, it's not like there's a ton of wildlife for you to see down there. So usually you have like, you know, the fish and the coral and the turtles and this and that. There wasn't really anything around for him to point out to us. It was like, oh, look at that like one silver fish kind of thing. So really we were just like trying to get to our destination. And I don't know how to explain the feeling, but I just sort of started getting this like sick feeling, almost as if I could feel how rough the waters were, even though we were so like deep. And normally you can't really feel that. You'll get like some of the current and stuff like that, but, well, I shouldn't say normally you don't. Normally I don't really feel it. So I don't know if it was because there was like nothing around to distract me, but I started to feel really ill. And I was starting to breathe a little bit heavier, and in my heavier breathing, the mask, which was a little bit large, would sort of come off my face, and it was filling with water. So I kept having to clear my mask, and I was breathing heavily, trying to get my breathing under control, and my stomach was hurting. And I already have a bit of like a phobia when it comes to being sick, let alone being sick underwater. And I just kept having these visions of like being sick and my like my respirator coming out of my mouth and not being able to find it, or being sick and inhaling deeply and then inhaling water, or my mask coming off, and just all of these things. And it was getting me really, really wound up. And so I was trying to breathe, and I looked at Derek, and he knew something was wrong. He asked me if I was okay, and I was like, no. And then eventually our dive master came over. He asked if I was okay. And I like gave him the signal. I was like, no. I was like, I really want to I want to go up. And I know Derek didn't want to go up, but he was right there with me to be like, you know, whatever you need, basically. But the dive master was like, you know, doing the signals, like breathing, you need to breathe. And I was like, no, like I want to go up. Like I have to get to the surface. And he's like, okay, like, you know, breathe, and then we'll go up. So I got my breathing all figured out. And he says, you know, are you okay? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, we'll continue. I did not want to continue this dive. I made it so clear that I needed to like get to the surface, but he was determined to keep this going. So I was like, okay, you know, like I'm breathing now. I'm okay, I'm doing all right. I'll be fine. We like came up over a little sort of like ledge. Was it a ledge? I don't know if it was coral or if it was a hill. I don't know what, but we came around and we could see the big Easter Island, the like Moai head. And the dive master had my underwater camera. So like he took some pictures for us and like was really dragging on the photo process. I was trying my best to be like super happy and super excited and like posing for pictures, but at the same time, I was still like, for anybody who has anxiety, and I know everybody sort of has different like experiences with it, but when you're in like a panic state like that, you can't just be like, okay, I just took 3 or 4 deep breaths and I'm fine. So I still was feeling sick. I still was feeling super nervous, and I was super aware of the fact that I was so deep underwater, which is something that in my diving, being that deep underwater and the quiet and all of that has always been very soothing to me. But on this dive, I had never been more aware of the fact that like I was deep underwater and not anywhere close to like land or safety or air. Oh, it's like giving me heart palpitations just like thinking about it. It was so bad. So after the photos at the head, the dive was almost done, and I signaled to our dive master like, you know, are we done now? Can we go up now? I think he tried to tell me there was a few more minutes, or like I honestly don't know what he was trying to tell me, but I basically said like, no, we are going, like this is done. So we surfaced, we did all of our like safety stops or whatever, and we got to the surface and he was like, what happened to you? What was wrong with you? What is going on? Like so angry. And I was just like so distressed and so over it that I couldn't even really properly like respond. I knew he was angry. And yeah, I just couldn't handle it. And years later, and I've told this story as well, I'll link it if I can find it, but years later I did have like a diving related accident with my eardrum popping when I was in Bali, and I ended up having to ascend early, and it was a whole thing. And my dive master through that was so understanding. We got to the surface and he was like, I understand what's going on. This is what's happening. You don't need to be afraid. This is why it happened. Like, it's not your fault. Da 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 da. Like, it was very, like, he was just very cool, calm, collected. That experience was not at all like this. So like in hindsight, I can't even really say that I'm like on board with how he handled it, because I am not. We got back to the boat and I was able to just like take all my gear off and chill and breathe. Derek, just like a side note, Derek got really sick from the waves. So he was being sick off the side of the boat, and I looked around and almost every other diver coming up was being sick. So the sick feeling that I was feeling was not like singular to me. The same sort of situation was going on with everybody. It was just a mess. So yeah, that was kind of my like whole experience with my anxiety attack underwater. I hope that you guys enjoyed my little tale of terror. If you have ever experienced anything like this, I don't know what it would be. I would just I would love for you to share it so I don't feel like I'm so alone. And yeah, in our next video, we will definitely get back into some more lighthearted content, I guess I'll call it. From Easter Island, we head to the Atacama Desert in Chile, where we will begin our exploration through the salt flats to Bolivia. We head into the Amazon rainforest. There is a ton of exciting adventures still to come, so don't even worry. Hit that like and subscribe button down below so that you do not miss the rest of this series. Hop back and check out some of our older videos if you haven't already. And until I see you next time in the Atacama Desert, stay great, stay safe, and I'll see you then.